Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Real Cast. I'll be your host today. I am James, and with me I have Sam.
Hey.
Kobe.
Hey guys.
And I have another Kobe with me. So the first Kobe will be calling Barrett.
That's me.
And then second Kobe will be calling
Fox,
yes. And then I have Ben with me too.
Hey.
Alright, so we have a subject for you today. I think I'll have Sam introduce it for us.
Alright, so today we're talking about how big artists today and in the past, once they get big, they lose their creative genius and lose the ability to basically be creative on their own and be original. And so I'd like to start off with an example of this in early 70s, going to the 80s. Several artists, such as like Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen and James Taylor, they were very original in early 70s and got kind of big because of their first original music. But once they started getting bigger, an example would be Billy Joel started creating more pop music and kind of lost his earlier pizzazz and real creativity.
All right, yeah.
I can agree with James Taylor. Anything after Fire and Rain kind of blows.
Why does that happen? What makes him start producing worse quality music?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is fairly obvious. It's a big commercial market, and eventually the companies want to take over the most popular artists they only focus on tried and proven methods of getting money. That's basically what they want to do. And creativity doesn't have a lot of say in that.
And also it very much has to do with getting the largest possible audience, which means you need to create music that everybody likes, which is what pop music is. But also, what everybody likes is not necessarily original music. In fact, a lot of the time, it's not. And that's why it's so hard for good musicians to be original, but yet appeal to a large audience.
And I feel like it affects people outside of mainstream pop music. For instance, one of my favorite 70s bands, the Dead Kennedys, punk band from San Francisco. They made a lot of original music through their entire lifespan, but as they were pressured to join labels, a lot of infighting was sparked in the band, and their music stayed fresh, but it fractured the band. So even if you're not popular to any degree, the music industry really strangles anything you had out of you simply in the name of sales.
Yeah, and I think we can see this trend has been going on for a while. Most people know about it, and in fact, it goes even beyond music. I know a lot of people here have a lot of experience with music, so maybe they could give their own experience in what they've experienced as they've tried to produce songs or something like that. Kobe?
Yeah, well, it's not something that just happened in the 70s. It's still happening.
Absolutely.
We can still see it in Imagine Dragons, for example, Coldplay. They had really solid, first albums that got really big, and it was high quality music.
Yeah.
But since I think most people can agree, I'd assume that most people would agree that their later stuff hasn't been as consistent or as good on average as their first stuff. So it still happens. You can still see it.
Take Weezer, for example.
Definitely.
Their first album was the biggest hit ever. So many good songs, so much good stuff on that, and then all their albums just went downhill from that.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me angry is that a lot of big artists have ghostwriters now, and so they and it makes me feel like popular music is like created by a machine. It's it's like tailored a perfect fit for the entire population, and it's like not even music. It's just like a computer could literally write it.
Yeah, like it loses like a sense of personality in that way.
Yeah.
Like music, like music should be a form of expression. It should be like a form of like you're putting a piece of you into what you're writing, and what like it's just a form of like putting your message out there in your own way, and with the just trying to get the next like catchy pop tune or whatever going. Like it doesn't have any personality to it.
Well, and then from there, like, everything's going to eventually become the same, because if we keep following, like, a tried and true method to what we release, everything's going to eventually sound the same, and we're already seeing that. Everything's, like, the same chord progression in the key of G. It's just terribly obnoxious over some garbage beat laid down by a machine.
Little Pump.
You're right.
Yeah. Mumble rap in general.
Oh.
It all sounds the same to me.
So bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, wait. I was gonna say, I do though appreciate. I don't think I could come up with a specific example, but there are definitely some pop artists that try and talk about relevant things and try and bring up issues that they actually care about and try and get their message out there. Yeah.
Like, one I can think of just off the top of my head that I'm totally with you on is one of my favorite albums, To Pimp a Butterfly from Kendrick Lamar. Of course. Definitely like a big, like a pop magnate of an album, but had some really interesting things musically, and especially on its lyrical side. I mean, he really dealt with a lot of big issues about like race and identity and what it means to be a black man in America today. And like the Yams line alone delivers so much meaning to that entire album.
And kind of going off that, another artist that comes to my mind is Logic, which like although he's more kind of like rap poppy, but like the Suicide Hotline song he has, like it's really good. Like it's a really good song. It has a good message. It's a little poppy and kind of.
And that's what I was gonna say is he's a little bit more
mainstream.
Yeah, he's a little more mainstream, but like it actually has like a good message that he's trying to put forth at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say, I mean, it's not all bad. That we, like, you, of course, like, if worse comes to worse, you would have to just, like, dig around on the internet and find some obscure band that you can listen to. But the point is, I think we all agree that we need to do something to try to give artists more options with how they can express themselves. And I mean, I don't know, it's not an easy solution, because a lot of it has to do with corporations and things, something the general populace can't really manipulate that much. Do you guys have any suggestions for what an average person could maybe do?
I actually feel like one thing that's important to know is actually the pitfalls of being an indie artist, is because like a lot of the times if you don't have many followers, you immediately get branded, and correctly so, as like an indie artist, but the definition of an indie artist is just someone who's independently publishing their own music. But there's a real stigma that's come about in the past few years that indie artists have a specific sound. And I mean, like, I personally enjoy a lot of the sound coming out of the quote-unquote indie scene as the genre, like Vampire Weekend is a perfect example of this. But a lot of indie bands need to watch out for that. They gotta, like, it's almost become a branding game for new up-and-coming bands. They gotta make sure they're recognized as not an indie band, but as some new up-and-comer, and that just adds more pitfalls.
Do you think the abolishment of all labels in all genres would, like, fix it? Because, like, there's always, like, genres that are prejudiced against, like, and a lot of people, like, when you ask somebody, hey, what music do you like, they always say a genre, right?
Yeah.
And they will always say, oh, I like this, and they're like, oh, I don't like that. But, like, that's branding this entire spectrum of good and bad musicians that, like, like, as this bad thing,
Yeah, like, I
Like,
understand where you're coming from. I just think the issue with abolishing, like,
I mean, it'd be impossible, but I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
like, would it
Well, and then from there, like, if we were to find some way to get rid of genres, that would be good and fine. But the issue with getting rid of labels is, and labels are inherently...
You're talking about record labels, or are you talking about labels just like anywhere?
Oh, record labels.
Okay.
Is that not what you meant?
No, well, you finish it.
Well, they do drain a lot of the creativity out of music, and they approach that musical mean that's dominating pop music at this moment. But the issue is you need to have some degree of accessibility. Because if we were to get rid of record labels... For instance, most people shop on, like iTunes or Google Music or Spotify, To get noticed, you have to be able to release with some sort of branding power, Because that's what puts you on the charts. If everyone was on an even playing field, sure, it would give the indie guys a chance, and it would expose people to a lot of new sounds. But at the same time, it's going to create such a low field of accessibility for all music that music as a whole would start to struggle. It'd be difficult to access really any artist and thereby to support them too. Music would itself fizzle out.
And going back to the like genres thing, like trying to get rid of all genres, like I don't necessarily think that would be a good thing because I think like we as humans we like to identify with each other and we like to have similarities, and I think like I know like it's bad that genres like they kind of like
they limit.
They can limit artists.
Any label, and I'm talking about grouping something as like labeling something.
Yeah.
Is bound to be corrupt, right? I mean, it's bound to be like either prejudiced against or favored but like that's like grouping anything has a problem.
Yeah.
But also we need that.
Yeah, and
right?
I don't think you can stop that either because it's just something that we as humans naturally do. But I don't know, it just like with the genre thing, I think it's a good thing to have because it kind of like because like then you can find other artists that are like similar to you. You can kind of like go off their style and you can like see what, like how you want to further progress in your music.
And I agree with that. I think, and this is a little bit meta, but the issue at hand is that people are lazy.
Yeah.
Like they like genres because you can put up a Spotify genre playlist, and you're going to get music of the type or the mood that you're looking for. And that's valuable and it's important, but it does have, it carries the weight of labeling people, like you said, and it limits a lot of artists. And especially once you do sign to a label, one of the reasons the creativity drain is there is you're not allowed to stray from genre. Like an example of this would be Childish Gambino. His new album, Awaken My Love, was absolutely fantastic, but a lot of people gave him a lot of flack because they wanted a rap album.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the label got mad at him too, and it's his least selling album of all time, and it's like, that really is kind of hard to believe judging by how independent he was when Camp first came out. But just, genres have a lot of problems, but they really are unavoidable, like Ben said. We categorize things, and people are so lazy, if we were to get rid of it, again, music would just die out.
Yeah, and I think people have, as time has gone on, people have listened to, people haven't listened to the same stuff more and more. Like, people, how we were talking about how you ask everybody what they listen to and they all say a different genre.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how it used to be.
You think everybody listened to the same thing?
Yeah, like back in like my parents.
Well, I feel like
what
that's a
they
little
say.
bit of a given, especially if you go like way further back to the era of like gramophones, even. Music didn't have exactly a wide variety of genres, and you listen to someone by like an artist. You listen to a lot of the major.
You just say the artist.
Yeah, you listen to basically.
I mean, no, surely they must have had some kind of genre. They'd be like, I listen to this piano music, which is technically a grouping.
I suppose so, and there were distinctions between like big band and jazz.
I think
like
they would
jazz
listen to
solos,
anything
but...
they get their hands on.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're talking about
Like
that.
back in like the old
So,
days.
well, okay. I wanted to say with Kobe. Sorry,
Which one?
Barrett. Yeah. Shoot. So like back. I don't know how far back you were talking about, but I think it's more to do with pop didn't exist as a genre. There was just popular music, and that was different genres.
And
but like they didn't label this as I listen to pop. It was like, oh yeah, I listen to all the big guys. I mean, and I think also maybe it's that music wasn't like small artists weren't as accessible at all. So like the only thing you could listen to is pop artists, especially with digital music not even out. You'd have to buy records, and to get your record in a record store, I imagine it's pretty hard, especially if you're a small band, you know, right?
Right. And I think there's a bunch of reasons. Yeah, like accessibility, like you were saying, you know, with Spotify, you can just listen to anything. So naturally, people are going to listen to a lot of different stuff. But yeah, I guess music has just also developed a lot, or
Certainly.
not developed. I guess branched out more. You know, there's
So many
there's
different
so much.
times.
There's a bunch of different types of music today than there were.
Seventies.
But
But also, would you agree that each genre within itself has also evolved, and there's
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
There's like
genres that
within genres.
don't
Subgenres.
exist, and there's
Yeah.
I mean, especially in jazz, but I mean, obviously, but
Yeah.
but in everything, I feel like there's stuff that was played a while ago, and that's like nowhere near.
Well, and I'd just like to hear your two's opinions, Sam and Barrett, that is, as like Jump Monk, your band. You know, it's technically a soul band, but it's not exactly conventional soul music as the modern music industry sees it. You know, it's not in that vein. How does it feel to
Right.
be in that kind of subgenre, narrowly pinned down there?
Right. And I mean, we are definitely part of a genre too. It's not like we're like cutting edge either. We're copying people, you know?
And
We're
this has turned into an interview.
no, it hasn't.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
like neo soul is definitely a genre that we really like, so we started we did it.
Yeah,
It's
another
not like
reason
we're
to
like
have
creating a
genres.
genre.
Dude,
Well, but
genres are like serve as like inspiration.
Well, I guess I
so you
should.
can
I guess I
further
should
classify
rephrase
what
my
Can I say
maxim
something
here. Is,
before?
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to get back to the original question.
Okay.
And I want to say, in Jump Monk, I don't think we I mean we definitely do covers, and we copy other people, and we try to make our covers originals, and sometimes we aren't very good at that, but I think we're trying to make original music, and I think a lot of our stuff is very different, and this is like kind of the dream, right? This is like what I wish music was, right?
Popular.
That everybody, that everybody would be different than their own genre, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
we fall within a genre, but we're not
Same. That's a good
brand.
point.
We're not the brand neo soul, right? It's not like every single song is the same.
And we have our own sound.
Which I found with a lot of artists, like Mac Ayers. You know, I've shown you Mac Ayers, right?
Yeah.
I think nearly every song sounds the same, which is fine, but it's also kind of this brand neo soul or electron. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like the same thing. And I think within our band, we're trying to be different from ourselves and be different from neo soul. And
Yeah.
I wish that's how music was, but
And have different sounds song to song even.
that's what I'm saying. Being different from ourselves.
And not to keep this as an interview, we should definitely get back to the point eventually. And where do you guys see yourselves developing as a band later down the road? I know you haven't released your first album yet, but down the road, where do you see yourselves heading? Or is it too soon to tell?
I don't know.
I don't know. We haven't even released our first album.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, if we keep doing this, I'm sure we'll get
Which
a lot better and
which
even
is
tighter
an
than
if.
we are.
though.
Yeah, which is a given. You know,
Yeah.
the more you play as a band, the better you get. You'll get. But
or you could end up like Weezer and just get worse.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's kind of
But you won't.
it's interesting to wonder how music is gonna sound in 5 years. You know,
Definitely, yeah.
what's pop
Yeah.
like gonna be like?
Seriously.
Well,
in
and
5
when you
years?
think about it, like pop music, we've been berating it with these diatribes this entire time, but how it approaches this mean. But if you look at pop music in the 70s, like we were talking, for example, you know, like it had a radically different sound from what we have today,
Oh,
and that's,
yeah.
and that's
Absolutely. They were-
partially
they
due
were-
to
They were saying what they felt,
yeah.
which you don't get like anywhere.
Yeah.
I feel.
And
I mean,
this is not an attack on electronic music in any way. I think it's a great thing for the industry overall. But I feel like a lot of it is due to the fact of electronic music. Music development, like the means of production are now with the public, to reference Karl Marx in a totally out of context setting. But like anyone can go and make some trap track, but back in the day you had to understand music and your instrument, and to write lyrics you had to have lyrics, or have some sort of jazz experience, or it was just garbage. No one listened to it. And I feel like now that need isn't present. So that garbage has inundated the pop music industry.
Interesting.
I'm not sure about you need musical expertise, because
perhaps I should rephrase
Bruce
that.
Springsteen, I don't know if you know Bruce Springsteen's story, but it was dirt poor, and he just got his hand, like he was like a criminal basically, like he was this greasy dude and was like awful man. Not I don't know his character, but he did not look very good, but he got his hands on a guitar, and I don't think he had any musical experience at all, and like he created what he felt he would. I mean, at first he was very local, and then he started to write music for basically the world or the nation, I guess. But
and I get where you're going with this. I guess I should have restated.
Yeah, I just don't.
As...
I mean, I agree that like there's big artists that require no talent,
and that's exactly what I meant. Is now the
big
masses
music.
have the ability, and higher up artists too, but just to produce all sorts of garbage. It has to have no inspiration, no meaning, no talent to it, but it'll sell because it matches what's hot right now.
Yeah.
But back in the day, you had to have
you were
some
good
sort
at
of inspiration. Yeah, you couldn't just sit down at a computer and press buttons until you had something interesting. You had to have some sort of inspiration, that musical spark that really gave music its life and its energy.
and creativity.
And a lot of that's gone now.
Well, yeah, and every single player in a record had to be really good at what they did.
Yeah.
They had to be honest to goodness musicians that knew their instruments, because it's a record.
And that's what I meant by musical expertise.
I think that's the difference between electronic and the live music that we had in earlier years, because
and again, not to hate on electronic music, because there are some gifted, inspired artists out there using the electronic medium.
Yeah, you can. Sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I mean, nowadays there's DJs that just literally play their song.
Yeah.
And there are people who are hot right now who make their entire living off of remixing other people's music.
That's true.
I mean,
but
a remix can be good, but a lot of the time it's just, let's loop this section that's hot and add a beat. And that's not music as far as I'm concerned.
Be careful with remixing though, because you can be very creative with.
Oh, definitely. Again, you got to limit your arguments, but.
Well, you.
Oh well, I was gonna say that now it kind of seems like the focus of music has switched from the record and the recording to live music, because there's a bunch of bands that
are only good because of their performance.
Mm-hmm. And
which
also
is great. I think performance is like a very it takes a lot of talent.
Right.
I also feel like first it's important to limit that. Like there are some artists who are popular because of their live musical scene and their presence.
Isn't that why XXX is so popular, because he's like absolutely insane?
Yeah.
Live?
Well, yeah, I think,
and that's 95% of mumble rap.
Like
what does he do?
Jumps off and
they're real celebritantes, like they're followed because of their lifestyle. He's not followed because his music is good. He's followed because he's this drug-fueled machine of a man.
Yeah. He's a public figure.
He really is, yeah. And there are some artists who still will push for the recording value, like you said, but there's definitely a much greater divide than there used to be.
That's a good point. Between the music between what you like about the artist is not the music anymore. It's the person.
Well, performance.
Certainly for a swath of popular artists.
That's hard because isn't that what we want, is personality?
We do, but we want it to manifest itself in a musical way. At least I do.
Not just your lifestyle.
With XXX extension cord, if you will. His comes across like out of the music. His music is trash and everyone knows it. But they're there for his personality off the track. Which, whatever that's worth, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is... I mean, this is... I'm sure this is mainly due to just the fact that you can't make nearly as much money on a record as you could before. Yeah, I mean the rise of Spotify. I mean
you can't make money.
Yeah, no, it's
You
so
make
hard.
nothing
on streaming services. It's so hard to make any money from views. So like these artists, they have to have really really cool performances, and they have to have this lifestyle to even make a living.
It's only touring and I mean, I guess commercials. I mean,
I guess
like that Lil Yachty Sprite commercial. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they have to do nowadays to make any money.
I think that's also what I think that happened in the 70s. Actually, it was, I'm gonna forget who it was, but the first artist in a commercial appeared.
Oh, interesting.
And it was this. I don't even know. I want to say it was. I don't think it was Billy Joel, but it was somebody, and he was heavily criticized by like Neil Young and Bob Dylan and like all these other artists that like want to make a name for themselves and be creative, and they're saying this is awful. He's not. This isn't his music. This isn't him. This is using this creativity, this wonderful gift, this this musical thing, and using it for money.
To capitalize on it.
Which is weird because like we want to make money, creating art. But how do we do that without being somebody else, or without being, without giving into the corporate creed?
And
I think there's definitely artists that have gotten big and still kept, their creativity, but like they're still not themselves. They still are judged and micromanaged by their label.
Absolutely.
And that's, I mean, I don't know if you've heard like the Fictionist songs Free Spirit. They quit Atlantic Records because they absolutely hated it. Because they couldn't write their own music.
I did notice they had switched.
And
I didn't know the backstory to that.
There's still like 5, I don't know how many songs, but they recorded a bunch of songs with Atlantic that are, I mean, I like pretty much everything by Fictionist, but they can't be heard because Atlantic owns them. Owns the songs, not the band anymore.
Yeah.
But they quit because they couldn't write their own music. They were like, "This is stupid. You're not."
Good for them.
Like maybe, I mean, they're not big. I mean, they're pretty big in Provo, and I think they have a scene in LA.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if they stayed with Atlantic, they could have gotten, quite big.
But at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they quit. And they wrote a song. I don't know. You should listen to it. It's called Free Spirit, and it's like, it's all about how awful it was under a record company. And so they produce their own music now. They don't have any label at all.
And I respect that. Not to drag up an example I used earlier, but with Dead Kennedys again, like when they were fracturing the band because of so much pressure, like. A lot of the band members wanted to do what their label was pushing them to do. Release more radio-friendly tracks because they were an aggressive, really edgy for the time punk rock band. And the lead singer, Biafra, he wanted to pursue down that hyper-politicized punk music route. And the band wanted to go with the label and make a lot of money. So they fractured the band in half after an obscenities lawsuit. And Biafra now is still releasing a lot of music like that and doing spoken word performances, and I respect him for that because he was willing to leave the band to pursue his creativity. But I think it's more of a commentary on the damaging factors that we see from labels. Is not only do they decrease the quality of music, but they literally will rip bands apart simply because they want to make money off of it. It's worth more money to them to cash in on it than to tear it apart.
We have even more on how popularity can affect musicians, so join us for part 2 next time.